So for all of you, my name is Kim Green. I am the program director at Mount Cuba. So we're hosting the program tonight. Mr. Owocki is a associate for Mount Cuba. He's also a professor at the University of Delaware. And he is going to read for you this evening some books that he has written for his granddaughter, who is actually in there today, so we could see her. We would like for you guys to keep yourselves muted until Mr. Owocki gives you some instructions. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Stan.
Okay, well, thanks for coming, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a great opportunity for us to get to know. I'm going to close the door here because there's an echo coming. First of all, I want to introduce you to my puppy, Stella. Can you see Stella there? She is a puppy we got last summer because we were all spending so much time at home. So here she comes. She wants to say hi, huh? Anyway, she's been great to have. Her name is Stella. And we named her because I like to say stars. This book here about jelly beans is all about trying to teach us about how big things are in space. And the hardest thing in astronomy is to get your mind around just how big everything is in our universe. And so the number 26 here is going to turn out to be particularly important because it's going to help us understand how big things are and how far away they are in space. Let's see, I guess I can click on here. So the first thing here to realize is that there are three people in our story. One is this little girl named Sal, that's named after Saloma, my granddaughter, who's listening in tonight. And then there's her mom, and then there's her grandpa, of course, me. And now, of course, these are just pictures I've taken off of the internet, off of what's called clip art. They're not really accurate pictures of any of the real people, although I guess it looks a little bit like me, the grandpa does. And certainly the shape is pretty close to my shape. But the key thing I want you to think about is you guys are all little kids. Little is important here because everybody around you is bigger than you are. And so we want to think about, well, how much bigger are things than you? And how do we understand how big you are compared to the rest of the world? So the first thing I want to point out is that here, Sal is about half as big as her mom or grandpa. In other words, if Sal had a twin and they stood on top of each other, then she'd be about the same height as her mom. And so that's kind of cool. If you could just double Sal's size, she'd be as big as an adult. But what about Sal as compared to something else like, say, her house? There's Sal. She's pretty tiny compared to her house. How many Sals would it take to be bigger than her house? Well, let's think. Let's just say instead of having just one twin, suppose Sal has 9 other twins and they all stood on top of each other's head. Well, then that stack of Sals would be bigger than her house. Now, what if somehow we had some magic way to make Sal 10 times bigger? So we take Sal here and she becomes 10 times bigger. Pop! She becomes 10 times bigger. She's actually bigger than her house. So if you could somehow magically make yourself 10 times bigger, you'd be bigger than your whole house. And you'd have to have a bigger house, I guess. And so this whole idea of this story is, imagine you had magic jelly beans. And then as you kept eating these jelly beans, each time you ate a jelly bean, you got 10 times bigger. So that's how the story is going to play out. We're going to watch as Sal takes jelly beans from her little bag of jelly beans here and puts them inside her tummy. And each time she does, she gets 10 times bigger. How big would she be compared to things that we know about in our in astronomy and in our universe, in our solar system. And it's kind of surprising. It turns out with 26 jelly beans, we can make ourselves as big as the whole universe. So that's why the title of the book is 26 Jelly Beans to Ginormity. Now, ginormity is kind of a silly word. It's not really it's kind of a funny word. What we mean is that it's really big. It comes from a combination of something that's gigantic and enormous. And so ginormity is just kind of a funny word. So let's start off the story where Sal is sitting around with her grandpa. And because she wanted very much to be big, Sal loved big things. So one day she asked her grandpa, what's the most gigantic, enormous, humongous, ginormous thing ever? Those are all words that mean really big. So what does Grandpa say when Sal asks her this? He says, well, that's kind of hard to explain. So instead, let me show you with these super magic jelly beans, 26 in all. So here we are with the jelly beans. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jelly beans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. 5 and 5 is 10. And there's 10 more over here. That's 10. And 10 is 20. And then we have 5 more here. That's 25. And there's the last one, 26. So there's 26 jelly beans. Now I want you to count as the jelly beans go from Sal's hand into her tummy. Okay, so let's move and see what happens. He says to Sal, with each bean you eat, jelly bean you eat, you and all the jelly beans in the bag left in the bag you hold will grow 10 times bigger. So the idea is that each jelly bean makes you 10 times bigger. So there she is over here, really small, and then there she is 10 times bigger on the right. Sal took the beans and in swallowing the first one, pop! She was bigger than her house. So what I want you all to do now is unmute yourself and all give me a one big loud pop. Can you do that? Pop. 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 Very good. Everybody pop. There we go. Thanks. So each time we get more jelly beans, we're going to do some pops. Okay? So let's go and look what happened. So she took one jelly bean and she was bigger than her house. And there's the jelly bean inside of her tummy. And there's the 25 jelly beans left in her hand, in her bag. With a second, she was as big as her neighborhood. And a third made her big as her hometown village. Okay, so what do you have to say now? Not just one pop, but okay, unmute yourself and give me 2 pops.
Pop.
Pop, 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 pop. There you go. Pop, pop. 2 jelly beans made her bigger than her whole hometown village. So imagine she's had 3 jelly beans. She's now bigger than the whole village. What happens now if she takes more jelly beans? Well, 2 more, and she stretched across several counties. And 2 more still, 7 in all. She found herself as big as the whole planet Earth. So how many pops do we need now? 4 pops. Let's hear them. Let's hear the 4 pops.
Pop, 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 pop.
Pop, pop, pop. That's right. 4 pops. And now she's as big as the whole planet world. Wow, she exclaims. As big as the whole wide world. That must be as big as it gets. I mean, what could be bigger than the whole world? What does her grandpa say? There she has, right now, 7 jelly beans in her tummy and 19 jelly beans left in her bag. Well, not really, replied Grandpa, speaking through the magic mics and earbuds they both wore, because after all, how can they talk to each other if she's as big as the whole planet Earth? They must have some magic things. He says, things in space are much bigger. Take 2 more and you'll be as big as the sun. All right, how many more pops do we have? Let's hear them.
Pop, pop.
Pop, pop. Okay, 2 more pops makes her as big as the sun. Okay, But the sun looks so small, she puzzled. That's only because it's so far away. But if you take another 2, you'll be able to stretch all the way from the earth to the sun. So let's hear 2 more pops.
Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, pop, pop. There you go, pop, pop. Indeed, with now 11 jelly beans in her tummy. See, she's got 11 jelly beans in her tummy. She could even touch the sun, which seemed to have shrunk to a yellow marble with the earth now just a tiny bluish speck of dust. So there's the earth at the bottom, and there's the sun. The sun is like the size of a little marble now because she's gotten so big. She's actually big enough to go all the way from the earth to the sun with just 11 jelly beans. Okay, let's see what happens next. And then 2 more jelly beans. She became as big as our whole solar system, reaching beyond even icy Pluto. So 2 more jelly beans. Let's hear the pops.
Pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, pop. Very good. Very good. Comets out there buzzed around her giant head like tiny flies, much as the 13 jelly beans buzzed inside her. There are the jelly beans inside her tummy. There's 13, right? There's 2, 5, 5, 5, and then 3 more is 13. And now she has 13 jelly beans left in her bag. 13 jelly beans left. She's halfway through the bag of jelly beans. And she's as big as our whole solar system, stretching out to where the comets buzzed around her giant head like tiny flies. All right, what happens if she now takes more jelly beans? Well, it took 3 more jelly beans, 16 in all, to be able to reach the nearest other star, Alpha Centauri, which you now can see was actually 3 suns locked together by gravity in a slow, graceful dance. So let's hear the pops. 3 pops.
Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, pop, pop. Very good. So Alpha Centauri is the nearest other star. Our sun is really just a star, and it looks so bright because it's so close. But now Alpha Centauri is not just 1 star, it's 3 stars that are held together by their gravity, and they kind of go around each other in a beautiful dance. All right, now she's got 16 jelly beans in her tummy and just 10 jelly beans left in her bag. So what's going to happen next? Well, with just 10 jelly beans left, she was getting kind of tired. And so now she decided to eat them 5 at a time. So let's hear that. How many pop?
Pop, 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 pop.
Okay, there we go. We have 5 pops. That made her now as big. After the first 5, she was as big as her Milky Way galaxy. The whole Milky Way galaxy, which has billions and billions of stars like our sun, with its spiral arms swirling around like the 21 jelly beans in her now very swollen and giant tummy. She's now got 21 jelly beans in her tummy and just 5 jelly beans left. What's going to happen to those 5 jelly beans? Well, with the last 5, she was finally as big as our whole universe, itself grown big in the 14 gigayears since its own tiny birth in the Big Bang. So 14 gigayears is 14 billion years ago, and the universe was actually tinier than a little seed, and it exploded to be the universe we have today. Now she is as big as the whole universe. So how many more jelly beans did it take? 5. Let's hear those pops.
Pop, 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 pop.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so now she says, it can't go any further. She's all done. She's used all her jelly beans. She has 26 jelly beans, and she's now there. She's in Ginormity. So there, her grandpa says, congratulations, you made it. The most ginormous thing we will ever know with just 26 jelly beans, noted Grandpa proudly. Think about that. By just every jelly bean making you 10 times bigger means that all you have to do is eat 26 jelly beans. That's like a little bag of jelly beans. And if you had such magic jelly beans, you would be as big as our whole universe. Pretty amazing. Okay, so let's see what happens next. Then, like a bubble that's gotten too big, there was another loud, let's hear it. Another loud what?
Pop.
Pop. And suddenly she was back home at her normal size. So one big loud pop, and all that big, it's like a bubble. Once it gets too big, what happens to it? It goes pop. That's what happened, and she's now back to her normal size, just a little bit, quite a bit smaller than her house again. All right, now let's see. Excited, she ran to her mom and said, Grandpa just gave me super magic jelly beans to make me as big as the whole universe. Then her smile turned to a frown as she added, now I have a bad tummy ache and a big headache. You can imagine if you ate 26 jelly beans, even regular jelly beans, it'd probably give you a tummy ache, wouldn't it? So here we go. She's now not feeling so good, but her mom says to her, I know, sweetie, said her mom as she turned with a grin to her own dad, Sal's grandpa. I felt the same when he did that for me when I was a little girl who more than anything just wanted to be big. And that's the end of the story. Now it's the end of the story, but it's not quite the end of our little show, because we're going to just recap now what happened to Sal. Sal took this journey where she went from her regular size. She ate a bunch of jelly beans. 7 jelly beans made her as big as the earth. Then 2 more. Why don't we hear, let's see if we can have how many jelly beans do we have? How many pops do we have? Do we have to have 7 pops? Can we do 7 pops real quick?
Pop, 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 pop.
Very good. Then we got to the size of the earth. Now we have to do 2 more jelly beans, 2 more pops to get to the size of the sun. Pop, pop. 2 more. Oh, 2 more to reach to the size of from the earth to the distance to the sun. Let's hear the 2 more pops. Now 2 more to be big enough to go up by the comets.
Pop, pop,
Pop. Okay. And then 3 more to get as big as reaching out to the nearest star, Alpha Centauri. 3 more pops.
pop, pop, pop.
Very good. Now 5 more to get as big as our Milky Way galaxy. Okay, and then finally 5 more to get to the size of the whole universe. Very good. So that's 26 pops and all. 26 jelly beans makes her as big as the whole universe. And then one final ginormous pop. Let's have that one really be loud. Oh, okay. Pop, my goodness. Yeah, that one is really loud because that one is the whole universe, the whole thing like bursting like the bubble. So now let's just take a few seconds to look at some things in our astronomy, in our astronomy universe. This is a picture of a star. This is a picture of a real star taken with the Hubble Space Telescope that died when it ran out of its fuel. And it kind of turned into this beautiful nebula. And you know what? We can tell how big it is by just how many jelly beans it would take to be as big as it. And this butterfly, it's called the butterfly nebula because it looks a little bit like a butterfly, doesn't it? And you just need 16 jelly beans to be as big as it. But you need 19 jelly beans to be able to reach it from Earth to here, to where it is. So it's basically 3 more jelly beans away than it is how big. So astronomers basically use this kind of way to measure things in the sky and in space. That's kind of how they do. How many pops, how many tens do they need? How many 10 times bigger do they need to understand the sizes of things? But the thing that's cool about making things 10 times bigger is that you can get to enormous ranges of size. Here are other stars that just recently died when they ran out of fuel. They're all about 16 jelly beans across. This is like one that we think, well, that's what our sun's going to look like in about 5 billion years when it finally runs out of fuel. We'll all be long gone by then. And then, and so now here's a picture of Saloma when she was reading the book that we just got through. So what it comes down to is this book is actually available if you want to copy down these